Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ptp After Dark. We got Stacks. What's going on, Stacks? Salty Nuts is having a chicken and egg problem. I'm just going to come right out and say it, Salty. It's the juice. White Wings 1776. Welcome to you. General Samuel Fields. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Light Spear. How you doing? Puddin' Hollow. Welcome. Yep, so far, that looks like it's it. Yeah, I couldn't think of any other reason why eggs would not be produced by chickens. It has to be some sort of conspiracy. I don't know. Yeah, it has to be some kind of Mossad conspiracy theory thing going on. Maybe laser beams. I don't know. What's up, Zombie? How you doing? P.N. Welcome. Yeah. Are you getting in on this shit or are you just hanging?
I'll be going up.
Oh, okay. Hey, Big Willie. I'm doing okay. Not too bad. Appreciate you being here. Good to see you too, White Wings. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure everybody tells my moderators, like White Wings and Beach Bum and Mermaid is another one of my moderators. Disco Daphne, another one. Jim Bob. Just, give them a thank you every now and then for keeping this stuff straight for me. I appreciate all of them. War Eagle, how you doing? See, I knew you would think. I mean, it had to be something like that, Salty, and I didn't want to bring it up unless you were on board. Just saying. There's Mr. Spazzo Yeti, the man, the myth, the legend. You're gonna say hello?
Hi, sweetie.
33 Ohio, welcome. Anybody over on the YouTube, D-Live, or X, welcome to you. Slanty Chauffeur Bear, welcome. Yeah. We don't have an incredibly long show tonight, but we are going to cover what went on in Iran, and I have another small couple of minute clip from Fox Business News about Kamala, which I thought was pretty funny. I was going to show it this morning, but I just couldn't do it this morning, so well, that's good, PN. I'm glad you're doing well also. Thank you for that. What's up, Fact Finder? Henry 4570. Welcome. Watching me and Mrs. PTP went out after the show this morning, and after I got home, I watched the watching some sort of news channels on YouTube and other places, and they just can't seem to get out of this honeymoon phase for Kamala Harris. We also have to remember there's 100 days to this election. And unfortunately for them, their audience has an attention span of roadkill. And I don't think that this is going to last the rest of the week, no less into next week. But the mainstream media somehow seems infatuated with this whole movement, kind of like a bowel movement from Kamala Harris, which is conveniently used, by the way, to take the pressure off of the current sitting president, Joe Biden. So, anyway, let's get cracking here, because I want to have a nice discussion about Iran, but I want to show this first clip from Fox Business.
I mean, it's pretty simple, Maria. There is nothing less democratic than what the Democrat Party has just done. You want to talk about the big lie? The big lie is that Joe Biden has been cognitively impaired for a number of years, has not been in a position to make decisions. We've been told the opposite, and when they got caught in a very public way on live TV in a debate with President Trump, where Joe Biden was exposed and was no longer the effective vessel for all the former Obama holdovers who are part of now Joe Biden's cabinet, Blinken, Sullivan, Susan Rice, all the rest of them, they replaced him, and they replaced him with another candidate who has the same number of Democratic primary votes that you and I have, Maria, which is 0. So this is a fraud on the American people.
And that's the ticket right there. It is a fraud on the American people, because not one vote was cast for her. And what he said, Susan Rice, Anthony Blinken, those are the people who are literally in control of the White House, with the help of Jill Biden, who we haven't seen in a week. It's inevitable that the truth is going to come out. These people are compelled to do it. Just like this morning, when that person on CNN looked at that and said, it's all funny money anyway. They're compelled to tell the truth. And this goofball right here just told you who the deep state is. Who's in control? Unelected bureaucrats.
There's nothing less democratic than what they've done. And, it goes back to how do we deal with this? And I think that, President Trump has taken on so much, but that's why it's so important that Americans see what's happening here. And so many of the problems that we're facing, including what you want to ask me about with regard to what's happening in the Middle East, are because Donald Trump is not in the White House, and because Democrats are in the White House. And until we reverse that, we won't reverse the terrible trend that is taking place with America.
All right, we've got to jump, but we will get to your reaction to Iran. Are you expecting an impact to America as a result of what has taken place? 2 major assassinations, one from a Hamas leader, one from a Hezbollah leader, we think both from Israel?
Well, I mean, I think there's obviously the chance of escalation here, but the reason, if there is escalation, if there's a broader war in the Middle East because of this, it's because of Joe and Kamala and the policies in not backing up our #1 ally, Israel, when they needed it. Israel's doing the things that they need to do. I'm concerned about what happens here. We've had a wide open border for the last 4 years. We've had a 7,000% increase in terrorists coming across our border in that period of time. So, I'm concerned about what's happening here and what's happening in the Middle East. And it all goes to the doorstep of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the terrible decisions and the loss of deterrence and the loss of credibility around the world.
John, thank you very much for your insights on all of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of information there. What we're going to be talking about next is the Iranian thing, where they killed a Hamas leader and a Hezbollah leader, one on Iranian soil in Tehran, whatever. Tehran. Who gives a fuck? They did it in Iran. And the other one up in northern Israel and the Golan. Now, before I get into that clip, just to end the Kamala thing, these people are perpetuating a fraud on the country. We've made that clear in many of the streams that I've done in the last week or so. The only thing is we have to depend on us to let other people know that fraud is being perpetuated on them. That the deep state does exist, and they're the ones who perpetuated the fraud. And they did it in daylight, not in the back room in the middle of the night. They did it right in the middle of the day with everybody watching. So until we get some semblance of, I don't know, normalcy going on, we have to keep harping on this subject of how they're taking away your freedoms and putting their unelected bureaucrats to move forward their agenda. We're just going to keep doing it. So, thank you, White Wings, running the promos for my Venmo and Cash App and all that stuff. I appreciate that very much. Smart Poker, what's happening? Okay, let's get into the Iran thing.
This is what we woke up to today. Fox News alert: Hamas has confirmed their top political leader has been killed in a strike in Tehran, inside Iran. It marks the most serious escalation in the Middle East since October 7th and increases the threat of a wider war in the region.
The strike in Tehran comes hours after Israel says it killed a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon.
Two different strikes. Trey Yings joins us live from Tel Aviv. So, Trey.
So, I just want to say something before we get into this. There were two separate strikes. One in Lebanon. I thought it was the Golan, but it was in Lebanon. One in Lebanon and one in Tehran. Two different countries. Those strikes would not have taken place by Israel if it wasn't for the okay of the United States. For as much as the U.S. is going to come out and say, Israel shouldn't have done that, our government, the people running our government, authorized those strikes. Keep in mind, Israel is not an independent country. They do not make these military decisions on their own. The United States is pulling the strings here. Because if there's an escalation, we, the country of America, is going to have to back them up. So keep that in mind as we listen to this. Because this wasn't just Israel taking out some leaders. This was America's A-OK. Go get them, boys.
It sounds like Israel's behind this. They actually hit this guy in a house in Tehran, in the country of Iran. That is different. So the big question is, when is Iran going to start shooting, and what are they going to shoot with?
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Massive breaking news overnight. The political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, is dead following a missile strike in Tehran overnight. Now, the Israelis have not yet taken credit, but they are likely behind this strike. It is significant because it took place inside Iranian territory, a rare strike against the Iranian capital. We're still gathering details about what exactly took place, but we know Haniyeh was staying in a guest house with other top members of Hamas when the strike occurred. He was actually in town for the inauguration of Masoud Pezeshkian, the new Iranian president who is replacing Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed earlier this year in a helicopter crash. It is significant because Ismail Haniyeh, just hours before, met with Pezeshkian and also the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei. They were discussing the current situation across the region. Hours later, Haniyeh was dead in this strike. Now, we are getting new statements from the Islamic Republic, the supreme leader saying this morning.
Thank you, Sherry Pittsburgh. Welcome. Thank you for the cookie. So if this guy was with the Ayatollah Khamenei a couple hours before, obviously the Israelites knew where he was at. Why not just take out him and the Ayatollah? That's what they want to do anyway, right? Yeah, okay.
Quote, following this bitter, tragic incident which has taken place within the borders of the Islamic Republic, it is our duty to take revenge. There are significant questions today about how the Iranians will respond and if they will use their proxies to do so. But remember, this comes in the aftermath of another strike that took place just hours before, the Israelis taking credit for that strike in the suburbs of Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold, taking out a Hezbollah commander that the Israelis say was responsible for that rocket attack in the northern part of the Golan Heights on Saturday that killed 12 Druze children and teenagers. This is an unprecedented moment for the Middle East. The Iranians vowing to respond. Israeli forces across the country remain on high alert. And today there is a notice to airmen closing the airspace of northern Israel and anticipation and concern about the possibility of renewed rocket and missile fire from southern Lebanon.
So we have 100 days. 100 days to get into a full-blown war in the Middle East. And the reason why I'm saying that is when you have to walk to the podium as President of the United States and say, we are committing troops to go into here or go into there, or this is the reason why we are declaring war, so on and so forth. People tend to stay with the party that's in power. What's his name? The guy in World War II there, who stood in office for 4 terms. I can't remember. I don't remember his name. Who was it? Roosevelt? Truman? I don't remember. I should remember. But anyway, this strike of what? Convenience was planned by the United States. There's nothing that you're going to convince me of that it wasn't. And as Stack says, he said up there in the chat, it might as well been Americans who literally fired the missiles. We don't know. It could have been. They're using our equipment, so it doesn't matter. Basically, we pulled the trigger. Everybody looking for your excuse to keep the Democrat in power, this could possibly be it. We may see stuff happen overnight where tomorrow we may be reporting something completely different. So let's continue.
Guys, back to you.
So, Trey, this guy's death is obviously going to shake Hamas, but it's not going to destroy it.
Absolutely. It's not going to destroy it. And we should look at the context here about what this means for the region. Hezbollah is the largest Iranian proxy in the Middle East. It's got around 150,000 unguided rockets and drones, along with precision-guided missiles that could be used to target major Israeli population centers. Hamas is Iran's second largest proxy in the Middle East, and it has been destroyed since the October 7th massacre that took place nearly 300 days ago. So the options for Hamas to directly respond are limited. But Iran has a variety of options on the table, and as we saw, after the strike that took place in April against Mohammad Sakhadi, that top IRGC general, Iran does have the ability to target Israel with things like ballistic and cruise missiles. They did so earlier this year, and they are threatening retaliation for this strike overnight that took place in their territory and the strike that took place against Beirut, targeting that Hezbollah commander.
So let me ask a question. Is Israel defending itself by going after the leaders on another country's sovereign territory? Or is that conducting a war of aggression? And is Iran now justified to attack Israel because Israel attacked Tehran, a sovereign country? Whether the excuse was it was a leader, blah, 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 blah. They still went into some other country's sovereign airspace and conducted a hunt and kill mission, just like we did in Pakistan against their knowledge with Osama bin Laden. So I'm just curious, is this kind of stuff, do we sanction this as the United States? And how many other countries have we done this to? But when somebody walks across our border and does something dastardly on American soil, we jump back and go, "Oh my God, how can they do this?" I think it's a question that probably should be answered by some Pentagon people, but I doubt it.
Really, there are a variety of options on the table, but Iran, like Israel, is trying to avoid a larger regional war.
Good.
But given how rapidly both countries are climbing this escalation ladder, it may be out of their control. And Israeli officials today, including the defense minister Yoav Gallant, say the country is prepared for war, even though they're hoping one does not take place.
But Trey, the key is the status quo does not work. There are too many Hamas fighters left in Gaza to possibly declare go to a peace agreement. Sinwar still lives. And in the north, you've told me, there's about 80,000 people who've been displaced in a very small country. They're sitting in hotels. They can't go to school. A lot of them can't work. So the Hezbollah situation in the north is not tolerable. So they have to find a way to get through this. The current situation doesn't work. It doesn't seem like negotiators are figuring that in, and their American counterparts have ever stated that publicly, that this current situation can't come to a conclusion yet.
Yeah, Brian, you bring up a great point, and I want to talk about this week and how rapid.
Yeah, it's a great point that the current situation can't come to a conclusion, because this is the plan all along, is to escalate this into a global conflict. That's the plan all along. The closer we get to the election, the more escalation we're going to have. History repeats itself. Pearl Harbor, the Lusitania, the Gulf of Tonkin. It all repeats itself. So, of course, the current situation is critical. We're not starting the war fast enough.
Rapidly, things have changed. On Sunday, CIA Director William Burns was in Rome, and he was meeting with Qatari and Egyptian negotiators, and the officials that we talked to were hopeful that a ceasefire agreement was about to happen between Israel and Hamas. Within a few hours after that meeting, Hamas released a statement saying the Israelis were going back on their promises, and those conversations started to fall apart. Now, just days later, the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, the head negotiator for the organization, was killed in a targeted assassination in Tehran. This is an indication that ceasefire talks are basically off the table. And I do want to just quickly read you a statement from the Qatari Prime Minister, the man who has been responsible for a lot of the negotiations taking place. And he had an extensive statement this morning, but he asks one question here, and it's an important question in all of this. He says, how can mediation succeed when one party assassinates the negotiator on the other side? And
that's a great question. That is a great question. Now imagine this, right? The Allies and the Germans in World War I, they go into the train car and they're negotiating the armistice, right? All of a sudden, the French general pulls out a pistol and shoots the German officer who's negotiating in the head and says, "We win, war's over. We've negotiated with a 9mm and won." What if General Lee and General Grant went to Appomattox Courthouse and General Lee took out his sword and cut Grant's head off and said, "We win"? Does it work like that? Oh, no. But for Israel, let's talk about a ceasefire, and then put a Hellfire missile up somebody's ass. Yeah, it works like that.
End to the war in Gaza is not going to happen in the immediate aftermath of the killing of the top official from Hamas. You still have more than 100 hostages inside Gaza, no end in sight, no diplomatic solutions now on the table to end the conflict there. As you noted, there are tens of thousands of Israelis displaced in the northern part of this country. Continuous rocket and drone attacks taking place. Just last evening, another Israeli civilian was killed in one of those attacks. Just earlier in the month, you had that drone attack launched by the Houthis in Yemen, another Iran-backed organization. We were here on the ground in Tel Aviv when that explosion rocked the city, killing someone here. You have these Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias that today are threatening new attacks, not just against Israel, but against American bases across the region. And then you have this X factor of Iran and how it will respond to this strike against its capital overnight. We're talking about 7 different fronts here when you include the West Bank.
Wow.
A really unprecedented moment for the region and a country that is at war for the past 300 days. The forces in Israel are tired. We've been talking with not only the defense.
Oh, the forces in Israel are tired. So what does that mean? Does that mean we need to send some fresh American troops to help fight on this 7-front war? 7 fronts. Let's not forget of the hundreds of thousands of assets that we have deployed in Eastern Europe, like Poland, France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Ukraine. So are we looking at a 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 front war with the Israelites in control of it all? Huh? Talk about revelations. Talk about bringing down the temple.
Minister Yoav Gallant, but also soldiers on the front line in Gaza. We were in Rafah, that southernmost city, at the beginning of the month, speaking with soldiers there as they battled Hamas on the front lines. There are really major questions about what comes next, but Israeli forces have to remain on high alert. It's part of the reason that notice to airmen was issued, closing the airspace in the northern part of this country. And remember, there are 3 tiers of air defense systems here. You have the lowest tier, the Iron Dome, you have the David Sling, and also the Arrow missile defense system. We saw all 3 in use when Iran attacked Israel earlier this year. All of those systems on alert today over concerns that Iran could directly respond against Israel following this attack that killed the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, overnight in Tehran, and also that significant strike, the first time, we should note, since this war began in early October, that Israel has targeted Hezbollah in the Lebanese capital.
Well, Jim Bob, I think that's the end goal. And I'm not even going to shy away from saying that. Usually I do, because I kind of want to be neutral about that stuff. But by the end of the day, that's going to be their only option. Is Israel's going to have to use tactical nuclear weapons, specifically on the borders in Rafah, to stop what's going to be coming at them. Water Wizard, thank you for the can. Welcome. And it might be a multi-pronged attack. I don't believe in using that nuclear talk as a fear-mongering tool, like a lot of people do. I don't believe in that shit. But you're looking at 0 options. You're looking at 0 options here. Not only here, but in Ukraine. Because they did not expect politically what's supposed to happen, or what happened in the United States, to happen. Israel's only choice might be to use low-yield tactical nuclear weapons in order to, stave off the invasion that they're going to be incurring within the next 100 days. Remember this, the IRGC, the Iranian Republican Guard Corps, is almost, or it's very close to, 1 million soldiers. It is the largest employer in Iran is a soldier. And all they have to do is march across the desert and invade Israel. And it's over. So their only option would be tactical nuclear weapons. Like I said, Jim Bob, I think it would be on all fronts. It would be in Lebanon. It might be in Syria. It could be in Tehran or Iran. It could be on all fronts. Yeah, I'm not a fearmonger, but we could be looking at something like that. They're running out of time.
Capital of Beirut, striking Dahria, this neighborhood where Hezbollah launches many of their operations and plans out of the region.
Right, guys, thank you so much, Trey. It was very strategic.
Thanks, Trey. What analysis, as well as reporting.
Nobody knows better.
He's amazing. So this Hamas leader is at this inauguration. He left Qatar, or Qatar. You can pronounce it either way. But he left Qatar, and he was vulnerable to this attack. And Israel, this is an Israeli raid. The U.S. military is telling Fox News that the U.S. had no involvement in this assassination. And this man was one of the most senior leaders of Hamas and has been for the past 20 years.
By the way, he was to the face of the
U.S. had no involvement. Why would you bring that up? Why would you say that the U.S. has no involvement? Why? You just reported for 10 minutes that Israeli troops or Israeli forces carried out these assassinations. Oh, but the U.S. had nothing to do with it. Let me throw that out there. Well, I hate to say this, and I'm not saying it because of who's saying it. I'm saying it because it's the truth. I'm with Stacks. I think the U.S. carried out these attacks, these assassinations, firsthand. Because like he said, if he was trying to negotiate for hostages and a ceasefire, even though he's your enemy, why are you killing him? Because you have no care in the world about hostages or a ceasefire. You need a full-blown war. And in the next couple of days, like I said, it may be tonight. Well, it's daytime there now, so it may be tomorrow morning. We may wake up to a massive airstrike in Israel. Matter of fact, right now, there could be drones on the way there. Takes about 10 hours for the drones to fly there. So, I'm just saying. Of course, they have to put out there, the U.S. wasn't involved.
Negotiations, but Sinwar was calling the shots. And by losing the PR war and the global PR war, and having U.S. officials treat Benjamin Netanyahu so poorly, they think they're winning by living. And we're slow walking weapons at the same time, or holding back weapons at the same time.
Didn't he say he cheered when he found out his own sons and grandchildren had been killed?
His 3 sons were killed and 4 grandkids were killed, and they were patting him on the back saying, congratulations, they're now martyrs. That's the mindset Israel's dealing with.
Well, the Pentagon says we have had no involvement.
And I'm going to tell you something right now. There are no slow walking of weapons to Israel. For decades, since before the Cold War, the United States has been stockpiling weapons in Israel. There is no shortage of weapons in Israel. It depends on who you are, Smokey Randy. Some people do, as a matter of fact. It's just like when they say the United States is running short on 155 rounds, you know, the howitzer rounds that we're supposed to ship to Ukraine. No, we're not. We're not running short of anything. Those munition plants run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Bullets, bombs, cannons, tanks, armored personnel carriers are being built around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Planes, boats, ships, you name it. Socks, underwear, belts, boots, pants, shirts, medical, everything from bullets to bandages. There is no shortage of war products. Not here, not in Israel, not in Iran, not in North Korea or China, Russia. So when they tell you this, they're slow-walking weapons. It's not the truth. They're slow-walking cash. Dollar billions. That's what's being slow-walked.
It will be interesting to see if our president says anything from the White House. I'm Steve Doocy.
And I doubt it hardly that the president's going to come out and say anything. And if he does, it's going to be incoherent anyway. We saw almost the identical situation happen a few months ago. And it didn't take off. Where Israel struck in Beirut, just like now they said, don't strike Beirut. Israel struck Beirut, and nothing happened. We don't know what Iran's going to do. We just don't know. Will there be a retaliatory strike? Yes, there will be. Like I said, we might be reporting on that tomorrow morning. So, we don't know. Jim Bob, that's very possible. They have to have it. It's imperative for them to have it. And not just the Democrats. We're talking about the entirety of the United States government. All the unelected bureaucrats who get their funding from the military-industrial complex. These are the people who want war constantly. Afghanistan was not profitable anymore. I hope you understand that. Once war becomes non-profitable, it's ended. And a new conflict begins. The conflict doesn't necessarily have to be a shooting war. Look what they did in Europe after World War I. They sowed so much discord in Germany that they were fighting against each other. The French and the British were holding Germany responsible for reparations, which destroyed their economy, sowing the seeds of war. And in less than 20 years, had a formidable German army to wage war again. Look what happened in World War II. The United States gets involved in World War II. We come over there after being attacked by the Japanese, and our first battle is with the Germans. We fought a two-front war until it was unprofitable, to where we couldn't afford it anymore. So we let the Russians take Berlin, and we took the technology, the scientists, and the gold. And we blew town. And we've been in a perpetual state of conflict ever since. I don't need to name every war that we've been in. You all know that. But since the end of World War II, we've been in a perpetual state of conflict all over the world. When it becomes non-profitable, we move on to another region. This is not rocket science. What's up, DeCobb? How you doing? Maddie's mom, welcome. Jake Allen, how are you? Unfortunately, and I'm going to end the show with this because my throat is killing me. Unfortunately, our youngest generation, meaning our 18 to 24-year-olds, I'll say our 18 to 36-year-olds, were not educated enough to understand who truly, since the early 1960s, has been running this government, this country. John F. Kennedy was the last and true president that looked out for the well-being of the American people. Ever since then, we've been in a perpetual state of conflict. Through every president in every country. So, I blame it on the education system and the lack thereof. Joe 102, what's going on? How you doing? Thanks for being here. All right, guys, I told you it wasn't going to be that long of a show, but I'm waiting. I'm almost going to say tomorrow morning when I get up, there's going to be notifications on my phone about some sort of retaliation. I'd be surprised if there isn't. So, with that being said, let me thank everybody over on the YouTubes, DLive, and X. If you guys can, make your way over to Pilled, Pill.net. That's my home base. We don't know when these people are going to shut us down. I'm surprised I'm still up on YouTube. And of course, everybody over on Pill.net, thank you guys. Thank you for all the gold pills, red pills, blue pills. I am not going to talk for the rest of the night, so I have a voice for tomorrow. So, I will see everybody. Boomslayer. I will see everybody tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Left Coast time. Until then, have a great rest of your evening. I'm not going to set a raid, but go support people on Pilled. And I'm just going to end this show. So have a great evening, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.